Yeah, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but every single last one of you high schoolers might be cooked. You might be cooked. This NIL transfer portal, all the stuff that's going on right now is making it very, very interesting for you to get recruited. And for what I have for you today is I got some of the Pivot podcast with RC, Fred, and Channing. They're going to get into it a little bit, talking about the NIL deal. And I also got another podcast. I got the All the Smoke. I got that one too coming up next. But let's get into the first podcast.
That's the thing. There's a different. It used to be high school recruiting, draft. Now this transfer portal started a different thing that people, and I would say parents, need to look into. Advisors need to look into. These boys are making $1 million a year, so hopefully they have advisors to look into. But it's now the transfer portal put a different layer into college athletics.
Now, notice he says that the transfer portal and NIL are a problem in conjunction together. What's very, very fascinating, I looked it up today, the transfer portal came around in 2018. We didn't see the NIL, the name, image, and likeness come around until later.
And you cannot play the game like it used to be played. Because for Rick Pitino, I can't develop a guy for 4 years. Because if he gets a little attitude, if I say something crazy to him, he gets mad, he's going to UCLA. He's going, and those coaches are recruiting the guys from other schools. They continue to keep that relationship with those guys. So I don't like it because I'm old, but I understand that the business is being done a different way, and I think everybody needs to know they didn't do their business a different way.
You hit it on the head when you say you don't like it because you're old. I get what you were saying, but Pitino's old. Like, he's 72. He doesn't have a ton of time. The man been coaching for 50 years. He's coached on every level in the pros, college, etc. Now at St. John, he's seen it all. There's nothing he hadn't seen. And for me, no one's paying you, even with NIL, no one's paying you to lose. It's about immediate impact, and he understands that. Like, what have you done for me lately? What can you do for me right now? The environment we're in right now, that's the shift with the portal and the NIL. And the question I have, though, is it sustainable, for long-term success of the university? But I don't have a problem.
That's an excellent question, Mr. Fred. Is it sustainable? What rules and changes need to be made? And what else has to happen? Because some other things are going to have to happen before this is working somewhat efficiently. The thing on the top of my brain is that there needs to be some type of cap on the how much you can pay players, which there kind of is. But $22 million for a goddamn college player? Are you kidding me?
I think it's getting to the point now, right? If you're not AJ Dybanta, who's coming out #1 next year going to BYU, if you're not Cooper Flagg, who went to Duke, if you're not Bryce Underwood, who decommitted from LSU and got the bag from Michigan, commitments and signing day are different, right? They used to convince us that it was a 4-year decision for the next 40 years, or they would tell you it's not a 4-year decision, it's a 40-year decision. Now it's a 1-year decision, or until one of us don't like the other one no more. Right, so when a Rick Pitino says, I'm gonna adjust to it, and I'm not gonna recruit any high school kids because I got OGs leaving, I'm gonna get me some more OGs, these young boys gotta hear that too. So you have to realize if you're not the 5-star or the high 4-star, you're probably, or you actually want to go to different colleges. You want to maybe start low, like coaches have to do until they get the opportunity. Play your way to get yourself an opportunity at a bigger school or a better school or for more money, because that's what coaches do anyway. You got to get out of that mindset, though, that it got to be Alabama right away. You got to get out of that mindset it got to be Ohio State, or it got to be Duke, or it got to be UConn. You got to understand, if you're in that middle range, right, the middle schools are going to be looking at you like, oh, wait, I can probably get this dude that flamed out at Alabama that was a high 4-star that's not playing there to come to my school and play. So why am I going to go get this kid that I got to raise, that I got to teach, that is going to be developmental? So you got to look at it that way too. Here's a place I can go to for 1 year, and if I'm as good as I think I am, next year I could be at somewhere else.
Clark is 100% right about that. Mr. Clark is 100% right about that. You guys, I mean, especially the high schoolers, they aren't going to get, if you're less than 6 foot tall, I would say give it up. And I hate to be that cynical, but I mean, almost basketball, football, for a D1, if you're less than 6 foot and you're talking about Power 5 at any position, like go to a JUCO. You're gonna have to go to a JUCO or something. I'm sorry. You could be really, really talented. You could be really, really good, but it's just the fact of the matter that the game is getting that complicated. I mean, it's getting that tough. And the next clip adds on to it. And all the smoke in this podcast, and this coach, he's from Last Chance U from Netflix. He's from Last Chance U on Netflix. He has a good football, but he is a very, very sharp football mind. And he says something in this podcast that's very, 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 very fascinating to me about how where it's actually going to move to, basically what's going to actually end up happening with the NIL process and with the how recruiting is basically going to become professional essentially.
But just the landscape of college sports right now overall, NIL thrown in there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting. You said NIL, man. It was supposed to be how many jerseys you sell in the student store, or if you're the dude, you're the dude. Nowadays, it's pay to play. It ain't NIL. It ain't what it was supposed to be for. It's not name, image, and likeness. And I think if you took the portal away on what the portal actually is doing, it would be all right. Keep it how it is. Fuck it. But the portal, a company with NIL, has created the Wild Wild West times 10.
Explain the portal though, because I don't think people understand how fucked. There's probably what 7,000 kids in the portal for what 250 D1s.
No, 134. So do the math, yeah.
It don't math.
I tell people every day on my show, man, I go, there's not enough cats around. And only 1% of those kids get out the portal.
Right.
The other 99 go nowhere.
Or lost. But also, too, we all come from there. Obviously, we graduated high school in the 90s. I mean, you're just running from smoke constantly. Like, I had to sit my ass on the bench my freshman year at UCLA and learn. You know what I mean? Like, kids don't go through no adversity. And it's the same in the league now, or back in the day in the league where Aaron Rodgers sat, 3-4 years behind Brett Favre? Like, people used to have to come in and pay dues. Yeah. Have to pay dues before they got that. But now that shit, we're seeing it with the girl at Rutgers, right? She just made some tweet yesterday about coach not playing her, and we don't know all the details. We won't get into that. But now they're hearing she might transfer now. She's a super talented freshman, but kids run from the smoke now. So like you said, the NIL mixed with the portal to me is a recipe for disaster.
And it ends up biting them in the ass, man. There's a kid that was like #1 kid out of San Diego, signed with USC out of high school years ago.
Football, basketball?
Football.
Okay.
A couple years ago. Goes back home to San Diego State. All right, cool, I get that move if you're going to enter the portal or whatever. He has no offers now. He's going to a D2 in Ohio, Findlay. So, like, you know, come on, man. That's what's happening to 99% of the portal, though, that no one else talks about. They only talk about the success stories,
kids that make
the
it
1% that make the money. But 7,000 kids, 134 D1, it don't math. And now, like you said, JUCO, what I'm calling J Prep, because it's going to be the new prep, which I'm my wheels are spinning, because I think that'll be where I call a buddy at a D1 and say, hey man, you want this kid 1-for-1? Because I got a story that no one will tell you, and this is coming from D1 coaches and buddies of mine. I don't think kids are going to play D1 football anymore. They're going to play JUCO for 2, get an NIL agent that will pay them as long as he signs with them to go to the NFL.
Really?
They'll do draft days for the JUCO. They'll get a gauge if this kid's a first or second round projection. Wow. Now, to meet his criteria, football is different than basketball. To meet his 3-year out of high school criteria to go to the NFL, now he'll go play 1-for-1, which will be the old basketball. He'll go 1-for-1, and now I'll hit up Texas. I'll hit up Sark. I'll say, hey, I want $1 million for this motherfucker. I mean, that's what I'm going to do. So now you're going to go 1 year to play at a D1 and to the league. So that's going to change everything.
Bro,
so
you know how many players, football players, big name football players that went to junior college?
Yeah.
If that was being
basketball
back then,
too,
bro.
I got 28 in the league right now that play for me. So more than anybody else. Eight won a Super Bowl.
I got full eligibility.
You trying to get something?
I went to junior college for 2 weeks.
Aaron Rodgers, Chad, Steve Smith, Cam, you name it, everybody.
They went to Glenn.
And so you heard it from the professional and the ex-professional and the college coach in the college coach there, the JUCO. Like I alluded to it earlier, the JUCO route will be a real route, and I think that it's gotten a bad rap. It's gotten a really, really bad rap in the past. Well, I have to go to JUCO right out of college or whatever. No, JUCO really, really isn't that bad of a deal. You get to take classes for cheaper than you would going to the university. It's less money. You most of the time you get to play a lot more and get a lot more exposure than you would at a bigger school. So there's a lot of there's some the money, you won't get the money obviously off the rip, but like they're saying that there's going to be an agent basically that you could potentially sign with, and then that's how you're going to eventually be able to get your bag potentially. But it's probably not going to happen, especially like I said, if you're less than 6 foot tall trying to go to a D1. And I'm sorry, and there's a lot of there's a lot of excellent ball players that are less than 6 foot or whatever, but they're on the D1 level. They're so scrupulous about their archetypes, about what they want. And if you're not that size at that time that they need you could hit a growth spurt later or what have you, then they're going to have and then just like they were saying in the pivot, they don't want to teach you, coach you up, or what are they're trying to build a team. They need to win right now because there's too much money. There's even more added pressure now because there's more money going around. So that's the situation that we're in. The high schoolers, you guys are going to have to improvise and be resourceful and not get upset if you don't get recruited. But that's just about all I got, guys. You should already know what the deal is. Running your toes, keep your mouth closed, lock your doors, and save your throws, and most importantly, live to fight another day. I'm going to get out of here.